Hello everyone and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 9th to Thursday the 12th of January 2023. Hope you're well. I trust that you are. Someone who is well is Rob. Look who's here, everyone. It's Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello. Look, it sounds as though it's my first appearance ever. Look who's here. Look who turned up. Hello.
He's
You're
back
right,
from
everybody.
the hood.
Look from the hood. I've got a good collar action going on. What do you reckon? Collar up this week?
No.
I look a bit Danny Rucco like that, don't I? Yeah, I wish.
I thought you looked like Dracula.
All that, yeah. I hope you're well, Alex. I'm very well, thank you. Can I just say to anyone who's asking, a couple of people have emailed me and asked. The calendar is on its way, all right? It is on its way. It's been dispatched, and now it's in the hands to... All right, now we're going to say why we're laughing now. That's how it works. You make me laugh for something that's been said off camera.
Rob gave his address and we had to start again.
I said where I lived stupidly on camera, and then I realised I was like, we could start this again. I'm not. Some of the people that message us, I'm not saying where I live.
I mean, I will take bribes and give people your full address if people want to have it out with you about the show. So,
and to be honest with you,
I'll flash it on the screen at the bottom.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't think you need to offer that much. It's really
I'm a cheap date.
Like that. Yeah,
I've said that on numerous occasions.
And you think Ben's been around for so long? It doesn't cost him a penny. Yes, so the calendar, the calendar is on its way, and it's just been dispatched. But obviously now it's in the hands of Royal Mail, so it's your lot's fault.
My lot, mine, Harry lot.
Yeah, it's going to turn up around mid-October next year, so we'll see what happens.
I've got a bone of contention about Howie working at the Royal Mail on EastEnders. Oh,
yes.
He must have the easiest shift in the history of the Royal Mail. He's just gone in, started working at the post office. And I would say that there's a kind of like a tier system at the post office, that when you go in, you get the pretty bad, the difficult streets to patrol. He gets his own
square.
He just gets his own square. He spends the whole day there, has his lunch there, has his breakfast there, has long conversations with people, doesn't seem to have a parcel. His bag seems lighter than air. Like, it's almost like that one package that he has in his hand that he walks around the square all day is all he does all day. He has a lovely shift.
He does, but to be fair, can you imagine many other pilots? Like Masood had a similar shift as well, I seem to remember, didn't he? He tended
but he'd worked at that post office for a while. He'd been a postman for a long time before he began Masala Masood and all that nuts. But how he just goes in.
I know. But how many post people would genuinely volunteer to do their shift at Albert Square? You could get run over, you could get blown up. Anything could happen. It's not safe to walk on that square unless you live there. So
not many dogs, though. Not many dogs.
No,
so you don't have to worry about that. No warning on the PDA.
We should get a new dog on Albert Square, shouldn't we? A new Wellard.
What breed?
Labrador. Or
I'd like to see a Labrador.
Or
not Husky. Huskies are difficult to train, but Labradors are cute, and they could do like cute things with it.
That Labrador, chocolate lab.
Chocolate's fine. I prefer a black lab, though. I think a black lab, female black lab. Call it Rosie.
There we go.
After Rosie Miller.
Why after Rosie of all people?
I don't know.
There you go. Then fair enough. Who would have it?
Who would have a dog?
Well, Linda needs a new one now. Seems like Shirley went off with her.
Yeah, Shirley took her dog, didn't she?
Yeah.
It feels like something Jack would give to Amy as a present to kind of curb her a little bit.
Yeah.
Have a puppy.
Have a puppy. That's
there we go.
Me out.
Well, there we go. We saw it EastEnders for this week. Might as well not bother talking about it anymore.
See you next week. Goodbye from me.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Well, anyone who's watching this on YouTube, hello. You can see our ugly mugs. Don't forget, you can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any of your favorite podcast apps. Just search Walford Weekly Podcast, where you can also find our socials there too. So, Rob, should we get going? Should we give it a go? Have a little chat about this week?
Why the devil not?
This week we are starting then with the Slater's story, specifically Lily's pregnancy story. The social and the police are still on the case. Lily's not allowed to be around any men in that house ever again. And that was after they had interviewed everyone who lived in that house. Stacey, Lily, Killy, and Freddie kind of dropped the fact that he knew that Stacey knew who the father was of the child. However, you have something to say about that, I believe.
Right. I know I'm not alone in this. We spoke last week about the fact that the internet had gone crazy and was like suggesting half the cast for who the actual father of Lily's baby is. And we were all like, well, no, it's Ricky. We've been told it's Ricky. It's fine. Everyone calm down.
Ricky Jr.,
we should say, yes. But then it all went a bit weird this week with Freddie, I thought. Like, he was acting really strange. And for the first time, everybody, like, if you remember last week, Freddie was, like, top of the list for suspects that people thought was actually the father. Everyone was kind of, I'm assuming, going down the sick breed, sick category and just, kind of went down that theory. And I thought they were all mad. And then Freddie started acting really weird this week, like when he was confronted with like the social worker and was being really defensive and and kind of acting just weird. And so for the first time, I was kind of like, Is it? Why is he acting like that? It seemed very, very odd to me, Freddie's behaviour this week. What did you not think he was? Did you not think?
Well, that's funny because I thought this proved that it wasn't Freddie. I felt like it was Freddie's kind of like this was his way of basically showing that it wasn't him. I thought, but he was also. I felt convinced it was now Ricky Jr.'s.
But he was also the only one that was interviewed that we saw. He was the only one that we. Do you know what I mean? Like
he panicked, all the men. He was proper panicking in his interview.
But then apparently all the men got interviewed. Apparently Alfie would have been interviewed. Harvey would have been interviewed. Any man that's been within a 5-mile radius of the Slater house would have been interviewed.
Sneak in the house.
Yeah, and Freddie was the only one that we really saw in any detail, and Freddie was the one that acted all weird and started being really defensive and kind of dropped Stacey in and said, "Oh, sorry, well, Stacey knows who the father is. It's fine." And it's just kind of like, should we be suspicious of this? It just seemed very odd to me. My friend Ree, shout out to Ree. Ree's great. You'd love Ree, Alex. You'd love Ree.
Ree. Would I?
Yeah,
I better.
She's not long had a baby as well. Yeah, it's all lovely.
Has she?
Gorgeous.
Do you know the father?
It's Freddie.
Is it Freddie?
Yeah, it's Freddie. Stop asking me questions. It's Freddie, all right? It's Freddie. But she messaged me like straight after the episode. It was like, "It's Freddie, I'm telling you," because she's been proper pushing this theory. And it was like, "It's Freddie, I'm telling you, it's Freddie." And I was kind of like, it might be. I don't know. It's really weird. I just thought he acted very odd this week.
It's funny because I was convinced it could be Freddie and that Lily kind of kept it very vague with saying Ricky Jr. and saw it, as I said last week, kind of saw it as an opportunity because Stacey spotted her waving at Ricky Jr. Yeah. But this week I was convinced that perhaps they kind of answered the question and it wasn't Freddie by the way he was acting and that Freddie was just being a little bit Freddie. But I felt like he was hiding something else, and so there was something else that we're going to find out about Freddie. Hence why he kind of panicked when it was the police and the socials. And so in a few weeks' time that we'll find out that there's another reason why Freddie's there, and it might be something to do with his mum. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? So it's like because he's kind of dropped in there, but nothing's his mum. It's almost like his mum doesn't know he's there. So that's the only thing they've kind of left all of that.
They've left all of that stuff with Freddie kind of on the back burner for quite a few months now, haven't they? Since he arrived, they spoke about it a bit, and then we haven't heard about it since. So maybe you're right. There might be other stuff going on. I don't know. It was just something about him this week was very, very, very odd. But aside from that, I'm still loving this because I can't believe how much Walford police are actually doing their jobs this week. I think I was taken by surprise by that.
Isn't it? They're actually paying attention.
They've improved. Glennis has walked into Scotland Yard and said, "Right, stuff needs to happen." Because I just like all the realism of this. It feels I don't think I realised that all of this would take place. I mean, obviously, there would be questions asked, but they're being really, which I'm really enjoying, and like seeing what actually would happen in the situation, seeing how it's affecting the family, seeing how it's affecting Lily, how it's affecting Stacey and Lily's relationship. I'm loving it. I think it's really, really been really, really nicely handled, all this, and I'm intrigued to see whether she actually does kind of keep this, whether she is going to keep this baby.
That's what I was about to bring up because also Martin's kind of thrown his chips in now, and he's
suggested.
He suggested whilst eating chips, ironically enough, he suggested that perhaps Lily shouldn't go ahead with having the child, and that an abortion would be the right step to go forward. And Lily's adamant that she needs to make that decision. Stacey's quite rightly also agreed with her daughter, saying ultimately this is her decision.
Body, her decision. Yes.
Yeah, this isn't up to her. I mean, it's funny. It's interesting that they're kind of. And I agree with this. It's interesting that they kind of said it's Lily's decision and they haven't brought in the father and thought, well, is it his decision as well? I don't see in my line of thought. I've always thought that ultimately it's always the woman's decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
It should never be. It should be the other part, the seed's decision, if you will. But Martin is kind of convincing the family also because they're in a kind of a financial situation where the Panasars have increased their rent.
They're cheek. The absolute.
I know.
Panasars.
But to be fair, the Panasars, they don't know the situation the family are in right now. But they did have that boiler trouble. But then that's when
like
Nish
I say,
kind of
the cheek, the absolute cheek.
Well, Nish did spot though a couple of weeks ago. He did say verbally. on screen that they could have made more money turning it into a bed sit rather than having one family living in one house. So obviously it's almost his way of kind of like paying that way.
To be fair, the amount of people that live there is pretty much a bed sit now, especially now Harvey's moved in as well. A lot of
plus Harvey.
Yes.
But again, Harvey's now moving in. Do you not think they need to pass that through the social services, through the police? Because Lily's not meant to be with a man within 50 feet of a man.
I don't think they might have thought. I didn't think of that. Yeah, that's a very good point. But then maybe Harvey has been interviewed and everything off screen, and so we know that they know that Harvey's safe. I assume that. Considering how thoroughly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, there is that. There is that little nuggets that they need to. But I would have thought that seeing as though they have been this thorough with it, then they would have kind of been all right with Rob. Obviously, Harvey's going to move in. Maybe that's why they've done this. And they've gone so heavily on the interview things. It's like, well, if we want Harvey in the Slater house, then we need to clear all of this up first. So I'm assuming that's what. But that's where Harvey belongs. I've said this for ages now. Harvey belongs in the Slater house. It felt right that he's going to be there. He is going to be there with his newspaper and slippers, trying to just read.
The new Charlie
Charlie, the taxi driver, and it suits him down to the ground. Sometimes when you try and make a new version of an old character, it feels forced, it feels rubbish, but Harvey suits that role down to the ground, I say.
I mean, Harvey was always that way. He's just he's not been molded like that. He's just being put in there in that situation. Talking actually of how old stories are new. I did like Kat's reaction this week. Her instant reaction, remembering her abuse from Uncle Harry. She straight away was saying like, "Are you sure it's not abuse? Are you sure he hasn't? She wasn't."
I loved that. Really
that was good. I'm glad they remembered that because I worried last week where Kat wasn't getting as much involvement. Yes, it was only an episode where she was kind of talking to Stacey about it. Perhaps you could argue it was only a passing comment, but for me, it was the fact that it was mentioned and that wouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit more than just a passing comment because she was kind of visibly perturbed throughout the entire episode. We didn't really see too much of Kat this week, but I think the episode that she found out, she was clearly kind of. I mean, obviously she had other stuff going on with Tommy, who's now kind of having
going on at the moment.
She was a bit busy at the minute, is Kat, bless her. But she was visibly perturbed. It was obvious it was about that. She was it was breaking stuff up for her that she didn't want breaking up. So I thought that was really nicely handled with Kat this week. I would have liked her to have been at Jean's birthday thing at the end of the week. Though, seeing as though I don't.
Jean's non-birthday.
Yeah, 60th,
you cans and a bottle of wine, as Stacey put it.
It's what Jean wanted. Bless her.
She's a simple bottle of wine.
Soul. When you get with Harvey, you don't tend to want anything too complicated, really, do you? That was. Well,
sorry, I was going to say that the proposal. It wasn't a proposal, but Harvey suggesting that he moved in with Jean and they were sat on the bench together.
That whole
same bench.
Lovely.
It was a lovely scene. It's the same bench where I forget his name.
Daniel.
Daniel. Thank you, Daniel had died.
That, yeah.
Also, did you feel like there was kind of like reminiscence of when Dot was proposed to on the London Eye? It felt a bit like that when Dot kind of turned away and went, "Okay, then," and kind of because Jean didn't say yes necessarily, but she kind of looked at him quite lovingly and felt.
I didn't really notice the similarities towards them Harvey offering to move in when they were sat on the bench as opposed to being proposed to 500 feet up in the air. No, I can't say.
No, I mean the gesture of it, how it was of received by Jean. So when Dot was asked to marry, by Jim, she kind of looked at him and went, "All right then," and then turned away and then looked out into the London sky. And looked out into the London skyline.
Nice.
And I know it's not the same. You're absolutely right, but it felt similar in kind of the gesture, like she kind of quietly said to herself, thought yes, and it was a kind of a nice little gesture between them. And as you say, it's the same bench where Daniel had died a couple of years ago, so I felt like it was kind of nice.
I didn't notice that actually. That's quite a nice throwback because it's kind of like where one sort of relationship ended. And she kind of went through quite a lot getting over Daniel, and now she's sitting on the same bench with Harvey as a new life with her new partner begins. That's quite nice. I like that. Well spotted, Alexander. Well spotted. Well done.
I have my moments.
You do. Now and again, useful. New year, new you.
New year, exactly. So going forward then, I'm presuming that we're going to just look into Lily's kind of torturous decision of what to do next, I guess. When do you think, because Jack, again, you're talking about Kat being in a very busy situation. We'll be talking about Jack Branning a little bit later on the podcast, but he's obviously got a lot on his plate as well. And, if it is Vicky Jr.'s and it doesn't end up being Freddie's and we don't go down that direction, how do you think that's going to how much input do you think then Jack's going to feel like he has toward the decision that Lily ultimately has to make?
I mean, yeah, I think this is going to be sort of more added aggro to Jack's life. Whatever happens, even if it turns out not
Jack.
to be Ricky's. Poor
Denise.
Jack's going through it.
Denise, I feel sorry for.
Well, I think Denise will be all right. I think Denise is going to be absolutely fine by the looks of things. Well serviced. She
getting her MOT soon, isn't she?
Oh, she will. Oh, those arms.
Getting her oil checked.
She is.
She's a bit leaky at the moment.
Do you know what the weirdest thing there was? I stopped myself from saying that exact sentence, and you just took it out of my brain and put it out there for the world to see.
New year, new me.
Yeah, apparently so. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm surprised that Ricky hasn't really had that moment revealed to him yet. It's been a couple of weeks since we found out, so I like that they're really taking their time with this.
They're taking their time. I know. It's shocking.
Look
what's happening here.
Look at this pacing. We ain't used to this. It's great. So yeah, I've got no complaints about this whatsoever. I think it will be eventually revealed in the next couple of weeks, and that might be when we discover exactly what is going on and whether we should be worried or whether we should be concerned, and whether Lily is absolutely telling the truth or not. I'm intrigued. I feel like there is a little wrinkle of something still to be revealed. It could have been Freddie right on the other side of the square that Lily was waving at. You never know. And Ricky was just in sort of eye line.
These binoculars.
Yes. Question a flashback or something, and we actually see what Lily was looking at. We see what Lily was looking at from across her window, and it's Freddie standing right on the end of the square, going, "Oh yeah,
stop.
Oh yeah."
Now this is not Doctors. This is not
Doctors.
A daytime soap.
Is that what they do?
This is not Neighbours or Home and Away.
Is that what they do in Doctors?
I only know that because I saw about 5 minutes.
One episode, and you've decided that that's their entire rota. That could have been a really special big moment they've been building up to for ages. And
that's true.
That's what they do all the time in Doctors. Always flashbacking.
I've decided.
All sorts of rubbish like that.
I've decided. That's what I do.
Knew you.
Anyway, we're going to move on then to the Mitchells. Daddy Mitchell stepped up and became a bit of a fatherly figure to Tommy this week, giving him advice in the kitchen whilst making cheese sandwiches together.
Yes.
This was not before Mitchell had asked Ricky for some advice in the cafe as well of how to be a good father, which Ricky was more than helpful to dose out and give to Phil. And it was just like, just listen to him, listen to his concerns, pat him on the head, give him a hug. Yeah. Everything will be okay.
It's nice to see the Phil and Ricky scene, I thought, because considering how much history those two actually have together, you forget the history that Ricky and Phil have got. They've had a two-hander, Alex. They go back that far.
They have, at service stations, on a bridge.
Yes.
Oh, I'm having deja vu.
I know, it was Ricky's exit or something, that, wasn't it? Yes, it was nice to see that. I see now, we probably, I suspect, have different opinions on exactly how these scenes played out. I thought that it was more a case of Phil obviously felt very guilty about how he had actually put Kat and it was basically his fault that Kat and Tommy had gone through the emotional ringer. So he was kind of trying to step up this week and realise that Tommy was absolutely traumatised by what he'd gone through, like having nightmares and all that kind of thing. So, and Kat was making very aware that Tommy's trauma and PTSD was all Phil's fault. So he kind of stepped forward and was kind of just trying to say, all right, it's okay. You've been through quite a bit. You had a week. You had a time of it. All right. So it's okay to feel like that.
Year.
Well,
I feel bad for Tommy overall for his year.
Yeah,
we talked about last week.
Since his recast,
nothing but trouble for old Tommy. Tommy troubles.
Yes,
bless him. But yeah, no, like you said, it was entirely Phil's fault. And Phil had to step up on this occasion. Even Alfie kind of said, like, you know what you did, you need to sort it out. And so I think Phil, in his own way, did. He kind of related his relationship with his father to how he was told to kind of kind of just ignore the problem, shrug them off, and just kind of move on. That's something that he needs to he kind of convinced Tommy to do too, but at the same way, kind of like, know that there's someone there to comfort him, to look after him, which Phil didn't really get from his father. And it ended in a nice hug. I mean, as I said to you off camera, like I kind of concentrated more on how Tommy was making his sandwich more than I did on the scene, because that's where my mind wandered.
Really disturbed you, those sandwiches, didn't they?
There was bread being torn, there was butter not being melted properly.
Why?
Phil asked for a sandwich to be made. Tommy picked up one piece of bread. What was that about? I know. They're like, this whole thing kind of concerns me from beginning to end.
And Kat came in and asked for a sandwich as well. Did I? Was the one for me while we're there?
No, she then said, "Oh, you're making rubbish sandwiches.
Take a seat. I'll just bring anybody else in. Do you want to bring your mates in? Bring half the Slaters in. I'll make them. I'll do a picnic while we're at it. Yeah."
But I wouldn't. I mean, I was disgraced by the sandwich making, and so it kind of distracted me somewhat. I mean, again, it kind of comes down.
Yeah, that rock hard butter that says it's spreadable. It's not spreadable, Alex. It's like trying to scrape granite on bread. It's never spreadable, but it says that. There's a particular brand that does that, and he reports into the Trade Descriptions Act for its spreadable butter. Rubbish. Annoys me. I mean,
I'm glad you were on board with my annoyance as well. Then,
yes. But the thing is with this, I think this is more a case now of it's going to be Phil versus Alfie in terms of who can be the best parents to Tommy, and Kat's just
yes. I think that's what came down to it.
Deciding eventually, isn't it? The thing is with this, and I don't know if I said this last week or not. I'm disappointed by the fact that Alfie is, he said to Kat, "All right, fine, I'm over you then. That's fine. Well, stop trying to chase you, lies." But he said it. But what I was disappointed by was the fact that he hasn't then turned around and said, "Right, well, fine. If you're going to stay here with Phil, somebody who has put our son in this danger, then I am going to now be taking Tommy off you. I'm going to be going for custody of Tommy." That would have been the way that I would have kind of understood it going, because you're essentially saying, all right, you're going to leave this boy in the care of this guy who every other week is tying somebody up in a warehouse and has like coppers going after him with guns and trying to shoot him and wanting him dead, and you're going to leave Tommy in his care, are you? No, I don't think so. And then you try and kind of take him off him, wouldn't you? If you were any decent father, Alfred.
But Alfie is a decent father? I mean, he's there when he turns up when he wants to kind of like be the fun dad.
He stayed around. He stayed around because he wanted to shag Kat. That was the only reason he.
Yeah, I know. He wasn't even there for the kids, was he? Really? And so I mean, I don't think Alfie would have much of a leg to stand on.
But let's go to school. We won't go to school this week. No, you don't worry about it. I'll take you to Alton Towers instead. That's not being a father, Alex.
That's what I mean. He's there for the fun times, but never for the difficult ones. And then when the difficult ones turn up, he doesn't really want anything to do with it. But then moans when other people are kind of dealing with it on his behalf. So yeah, that's Alfie. That's Alfie. But no, I don't think Alfie had any right to try to get custody because he doesn't have his own house. He sold his riverboat, so he had nowhere to go to live in. He's kind of.
And also, he's in that boat now, doesn't he?
Well, he's sinking, But no, I mean, I guess it's. Best of a bad. He's living with the Slaters.
Oh, was he living with the Slaters? Oh, yeah, he moved in with Jean. That's right. Yeah,
that's why he was. That's why he was part of the group talk when Lily's pregnancy was brought up.
That's right. I remember
that random group of people. That's a point. How come Whitney doesn't know yet? You think Whitney would know that? Going back to this topic we were just talking about, Lily. Why has no one told Whitney? I would have thought Whitney should be.
Whitney's got her own problems. Whitney's got her own problems, which we should come to shortly.
The cat knows.
Yes, I think it's more Kat's. I think it's more Kat's business than Whitney's business. In all fairness, I would think because Stacey and Kat have got. Yeah, but Kat and Stacey have got that relationship, so I can imagine Kat being more privy to it than Whitney. And like I say, Whitney's got her own issues at the moment, so we should come to shortly.
Issues, Rob.
Yeah. No, they have all. There's not a single person who lives on that square, other than Sonia, who hasn't got issues at the moment. Really, is there?
No, Sonia had issues. Sonia needed to get her hair cut. Too sweet because she had her job starting. Yes. She was meant to start before the new year, but she wasn't able to start before the new year, so she had to start a little later. So instead of going into the salon and asking for an appointment, she went up to Denise to ask for herself, then get the appointment booked.
And do you know what they did?
She was able to get because that salon is never busy.
They did that thing where a character, the female characters, this happens to a lot. They'll go into the salon and go, "I need a new hair. I just change me. Do anything. I'm ready for this job." And clearly, all that's been done is that they had run a hairbrush through the actress's hair, and she's like, "I love it.
They've washed it.
I've never seen it look like this before. You're a genius, Lola. A genius."
But it was nice to see Lola back at the salon, eh?
Yes,
nice to see Lola back. She's back doing her job, isn't she?
Yeah,
I haven't actually written that down as anything to talk about, but we should
we'll talk about that. Pop
in the fact that just in 2 weeks' time they're getting married.
Yes, because Jay.
Which does that shorten the length of this story? Do you think a little bit?
Does make you
which
wonder,
I hope it doesn't.
It does make you wonder. It's kind of like because we've never been told how long Lola has left. Lola's not been told how long she's got left. All she knows is that really it's
on
terminal.
The death clock.
So has Jay actually just Sylvia and said, "You'll be dead by the end of the month. Let's get married quickly." Because we kind of imagined this would be some sort of hospital bed wedding, didn't it? And you kind of wonder, is this going to be? Is it going to be a picturesque fairy tale wedding for Lola's last days, or is it going to be right? Well, you've got about 5 minutes left, so let's get this done quick. You know, which way is it going to fall? Do you think?
I just think she'll probably have one of those. She's having one of those moments all the time, isn't she? Every now and then, but she's saying she's coping with them. She's learning to cope with them.
Is she having any more moments than she was before though? Because like she's still quite capable of going to work. Like yes, she'll occasionally have like a dizzy spell or something, but it's not any worse than it was before. It's not like
it's building up,
like
isn't it? Like
I don't know though. It doesn't feel. I don't know if we've. I don't think so. I don't think it feels like she's sort of disintegrating in front of our eyes. I think she's just about. She seems to be. She just seems to be about the same level that she always was. Really. So I don't know.
One minute the camera will be on low, and the next minute it will just be a pile of dust, and Jay will be like that. Lola.
You know what I meant.
The camera will pan up from the square.
Pigeons flying through the through the trees.
Broken bread.
All exploded. Yeah, exploding pigeons everywhere. Boom for Lola and Jay.
Out of a Malin, why not Lola and Jay?
Writes itself,
but I feel like it kind of puts a time frame on Lola's story, shortens it a little bit, which I feel is a bit disappointing because I saw this going on for a little while. It was a little kind of
it still might. It still might. They might surprise us and like have this be a really nice, sweet wedding for them. And then we find out
it'll
how
be
long
a nice
she's
wedding.
got left. I think it will.
But I think it will end in torment and toil.
Well, yeah, of course it will because it's EastEnders. But I did want to also bring up that nice scene between kind of that group in the restaurants at the last episode of the week because the Billy was kind of having a moment like this. Like, I don't understand how she's smiling. I don't understand how she's happy. Like this is awful. This is so sad. And Honey had a really good moment talking to Bill. Like Honey is going straight up in my estimation.
No, Honey's lovely. Honey's lovely.
Honey is fantastic at the minute. I love her.
I mean, I love that Billy just sat there the whole time scowling, like just looking angry at the fact they moved the wedding across. It's like if I didn't know better, I'd think he was angry that Jay was marrying Lola, but it's obviously that he's concerned that Lola's doing it a bit earlier, that they think that Lola's upset. I don't know the reason why he was upset. I don't know. It's just that from an outsider, you might think otherwise. But that scene when they were having that little conversation, they're having a few jokes, and then they all said, like, noticeably went very quiet. So that you could see Honey and Billy doing their lines. I liked that. I liked it too. I like scenes like that when they're kind of having conversations to one another.
It's not realistic, if there's a fairly big group of you, I mean, there was about 8 of them there around the table, wasn't there? And it is quite realistically 6, all right.
And I can name them all.
Really, you're such a fan. It is realistic though, with that many around a table, that you could quite happily have a little conversation between the two of you, and no one would notice. No. I like it.
No, I completely agree. So there you go. It's my way of showing love toward the show. Sometimes just kind of like see silly things off every now and then. Yeah. I'm not slagging off. I'm just seeing silly things from time to time, like the sandwich making, and stuff. Anyway, look, let's move on because we're going around in circles now about sandwiches, and we're going to now talk about. You're
the one that keeps bringing the sandwiches up, not me. I've moved on
hungry.
From sandwiches.
I think I might be hungry.
Go have a sandwich, and we'll record a bit of lesson in a bit.
All right, I'm going to tear some bread up downstairs, and we'll move on to Denise and Jack's story next. So despite Denise's best efforts, she wasn't able to rekindle the flame that once was between her and Jack this week. And she feels like she's not second to Jack's children, but kind of like having to step aside all the time. Although she does love Amy, she does care for Ricky Jr., she's trying her best to try to get the attentions of Jack. And every time she does, Jack just gets a little bit sweaty, goes and fixes some plumbing job. Right, actually, that reminds me of something straight away. So Jack got tenants, right? He's got loads of houses everywhere, like a Monopoly board. So he rents to people.
Yes.
Someone phones him up, says there's a leak in the flat, right? That's his responsibility to fix, right?
Yes.
He then invoices the tenants the bill. He should be invoicing the tenants the bill. He did the job because he's the landlord for the flat. I was outraged. Outraged. Landlord's right. Landlord right. The tenant's
as outraged as outraged as you were about the bread and the cheese, or about the same level.
Just as outraged. Just as outraged. Wow. And
what a week
Denise was outraged too because to get back on track. Denise was outraged too because it kind of broke up their date night. And so to make up for it, Jack said, all right, we'll have a date day and we'll go somewhere, perhaps the zoo. Yep. I don't know where they went. They went somewhere, bowling, cinema. Who knows? I like the zoo. What's wrong with the zoo?
I'm surprised you like the zoo. All those captive animals, but you'd be well against that.
No. Surprised me every week. They're being bred so that we've still got animals. No, they're not. Well, they only if you go to a bad zoo.
Oh, right. Okay. Then.
Look.
I just thought you'd be against them. I just thought you wouldn't like them.
Well, I don't see what's if they're being bred, they're being kept alive,
being looked after,
out of extinction. Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely, I agree. I just thought you'd be against it.
He stays in the house sometimes. Should I?
Cruel.
Run free, Charlie. Run free.
Yeah, let him go, you cruel arsehole. Anyway.
But Denise feels like she's kind of been relegated. And at the same time, as they're going away on their date to the zoo or the cinema or wherever they went, Nugget brings a bottle of vodka to Amy and Vicky Junior's. Has a bit of a party.
From the shop.
Steals it from the shop. Vicky Junior gets very sick. Ravi kind of goes along and becomes a bit of a father because because Nish and Suki kind of say you need to step up and be a better father. And then that kind of started something between Nish and we have Ravi and Denise because now they're kind of both seeing they're a bit lost souls and they're kind of coming together and seeing that they're kind of
I mean I have to say there was a moment this week that I really related to Ricky Jr. because I've done exactly that when I was Ricky Jr.'s age. I once worked my way through a bottle of Smirnoff vodka, not realizing that you needed to mix it.
The vodkas are available.
Not to me, they weren't at the time. I made my way through a whole bottle of vodka because I didn't realise it was. I just thought, well, it looks like water, so I guess it's alcohol, but it can't be that bad.
At what point? At what point did you realise that this isn't alcohol? This isn't water when it burnt your throat?
It did taste like that, but then I just all I remember from that point onwards. I mean, I was only about 14, 15 at the time. You know, kids, what we like, eh? And I basically had. I didn't realise exactly what vodka was. I didn't really know that it was like as strong as that. You know, I didn't. Ever since then, I've never been able to have neat vodka. I have to have it with a mix, otherwise I immediately want to throw up because I was not well that day. Anyway,
to be fair, I had a similar story to that with Malibu, and I can't even smell the stuff anymore. If I smell coconut water, it makes me feel unwell. So
it's weird though, because vodka is it's still my go-to drink, but I have to have it with a mixer. There you go. That's.
But I don't understand how did you not get after a couple of sips, you must have been feeling a bit like, oh, hello, something's happening here.
You were like, I was trying to act cool. Yeah, pretty much. I was just trying.
You with peer pressure. Yeah, you got to add that extra little.
No, because I was hanging around with a load of college kids at the time. I was that kid. You know, I was hanging around because I was so cool and intelligent, obviously. That I think I was like in year 10 or something, and then I knew some people that went to the college I was going to go to who were going to the drama course that I was going to go to. So I went to a party and then it all went wrong. 2 hours later, I was having my head held back as I went to a loo, and then I passed out on the bathroom floor.
Your head held back, not your hair.
My hair.
Your head.
My hair held back. Spraying it around.
Vomit went everywhere.
Yeah.
You've seen The Exorcist. It was worse.
Yeah. Two Exorcist moments in 2 weeks. That's not bad. Anyway. To say we've gone off track would be a bit of an a bit of an understatement. So, what were we talking about? Denise and Ravi, yes. I quite liked that Ravi got some moments this week. Like Ravi was allowed to be a character, you know, because it's not really. It's like Ravi's got his own story that doesn't involve him being murdering his dad, and it was just nice to have him sort of just there and just being a person, and we just learn a bit more about Ravi. I quite liked this. What do you think?
It is funny that they're kind of softening Ravi because normally if a character comes onto the show which makes me still wonder if Ravi was never meant to be a long-term character, Kirat was meant to stay, and that they've just had to kind of because of
Kirat and
circumstances.
Denise would have worked. Yeah, Kirat and Denise would have worked.
Kirat's
quite well,
gone.
Yeah.
So Ravi's stepped in, and so Ravi's now the main character. Maybe. I mean, not necessarily have the same stories, maybe not, but I don't know. It just feels like, as you say, Ravi. We mustn't forget that Ravi has killed. And as we know, in the law of
Denise has got
if someone is killed, if someone is killed, then they're going to need to have their comeuppance at some point in their lives. Mm-hmm. And it feels like that he's been seen as this kind of like softer character that is trying his hardest to become be a dad. And he made a little bit of a mistake this week where he tried to kiss Denise, and Denise said, "No, what do you think you're doing? Step away."
She was tempted, but she was tempted. Like slapped her with a glove. But she was tempted.
Held his head back.
because Denise has been getting it all. Shut up, Denise has been getting it from all angles this week. You know, Jack's been shouting at her, Amy's been shouting at her, Ricky's
Jack's
been shouting at everybody.
Isn't he? Let's be honest.
He
Jack's
was a bit
being an absolute prat, and he's just like, this is the Jack I don't like. I mean, Jack was becoming real rounded, fatherly. Yes, he had his moments of fallout, but it was fine. He was learning. And then this week we learned that Amy confessed as well. Amy confessed that she was self-harming again. And what does she get as a reply? Yeah. Get in your room. Bob, 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 bob. Comes back with a bottle of whiskey. I'm going back to work. And it's like, oh, for God's sake, Jack. And Denise is left, as always, having to pick up the pieces to sort everything out. And Jack doesn't see it. Jack doesn't know how good he's got it. All he sees is the bad that he's got. And that winds me up.
Well, to be fair, Denise went out.
Me up.
To be fair, they both dealt with the situation this week by going out by just getting drunk, didn't they? So, but really, both of them weren't exactly. Amy wasn't exactly in good hands. Denzel is the best thing for Amy at the moment. It turns out. Who would have thought we'd have been saying that one day?
That's true.
But yeah, Amy
Denise was told by Jack this week that it's not your children, so why should you care?
Yeah, it was all very. I mean, he's lashing out, is it? He's lashing out though, isn't he? Because he doesn't know how to deal with this. He's got that Branning man sort of syndrome where anything remotely emotional, he hasn't got a clue how to deal with it. So that's his reaction. I wasn't entirely surprised by Jack this week. I thought because it just seemed like a pretty Branning way to deal with something like this, because he's on the edge of kind of what he knows how to deal with already. And when Amy actually turned around and said, "Oh no, I am still doing this. I have started doing it again," that just blew his mind. It's just like, but I thought we dealt with this. Like, I'm sure that we just came out of an era where this would have been dealt with now.
This is my point. Jack is perpetually on the edge of everything. Like he's always on the edge of something. He's like, oh, I've got to go out and solve the plumbing. Oh, my daughter's self-harming. Oh, I've got to go solve the crime.
I know, Jack was sort of like, but wait a minute, that FGM storyline only lasted 2 weeks. What do you mean you're still doing this? I don't know how to deal with this.
What?
Yeah, but I know, in all honesty, I like the fact that this is still a continuing thing for Amy. It's realistic. That should be. They're doing all that really, really. And I did actually kind of believe Jack's reaction when he was kind of just like, well, clearly all of these camps I keep sending you to aren't working. He was just angry. He was scared. I get him lashing out. I'm not saying he was nice to Denise. I'm not saying he was a particularly good person this week, but it was an understandable reaction in terms of Jack's character. I got it. But either way, what happened? So, and all very well, like I say, with Amy continuing to do it, I think that's been handled really, really well. So marvelous, awards everywhere, please. But yes, all of this did send Denise kind of running to the club because she was just sick of everyone yelling at her, which kind of made sense. Yes, and her and Ravi had a few moments this week. Kind of did that thing where, two characters that have never interacted began talking. It's just kind of like, you instantly in the first 5 seconds of them talking to each other, like, oh well, that's not fair. There we go. We can see this. See where this is going.
But why can't people just be friends, eh?
Well, just like us, Alex. We've not had an affair yet, have we? Or at all? We never will, Alex. I promise.
Because we're not in the same.
Well, we're not in the same country either.
That's true. That's true.
No, that stops us. So it's. Ravi and Denise are going to have this affair at some point, it would seem, because it just, let's be honest, why wouldn't you? Ravi has arms the size of oak trees. Why? You can't really understand why Denise wouldn't go there. And she was tempted. So how long before she...
That's what it was.
Yes.
She was
how long before she succumbs?
It won't be long, will it? Let's be honest. Whenever they start an affair storyline, I
been a while.
If we went back a few months, I did say, why can't we have a good old-fashioned affair? And I guess they've decided that they are.
Now we've got
with Denise and Ravi. I just feel I just feel a bit disappointed in Denise because, like, Denise, it's almost like she's. The ones, as he said, Jack is always on the edge. And the one sign of trouble or danger with Jack, he kind of panics and kind of doesn't know what to do. His answer to everything is violence or shouting, and he doesn't. And that's not the answer to the problem that's facing him right now. And I feel like Denise had it all in her stride. And I do blame Jack a little bit because Jack kind of stopped her feeling like she had the right to kind of give advice.
That was the key point.
And said, "These are not your kids." And as soon as he said that, Denise was like, right, I'm off.
Right.
But Denise has stopped. Denise did stop it this time.
Well, she did.
But who will... you know, who will bring it forward this time? Who will be the one who initiates it next time? Will it be Denise?
Well, yeah, probably. I think what will probably happen is what we're going to get now is a couple of episodes of Ravi going, I'm sorry. Here's some more flowers. Here's some more chocolates. I'm sorry. And then...
I'll take that.
Yeah, I know. I'd be like, all right, you're forgiven. And then something else will happen. Jack will blow up again because maybe once the Ricky Jr. thing comes out, and then Jack will blow up again. And that's enough. That'll be enough, won't it? There you go. Got it all written. God, imagine
Jack's, I'm dreading Jack's reaction to that. It's going to be a live episode reaction, Jack, isn't it? It's going to be. They know where you are, Bradley. Words failed, Jack.
Failed him. Speechless. Yeah, so that's where it's going to go.
One line and he fluffed. No, I shouldn't.
But the best, live in front of 12 you hear about all the story about that. They've told this story quite a lot in interviews about the live episodes. So obviously, it's a moment of hilarity for all the cast because apparently Scott Masden was always going like, guys, I've done a live episode before, so I've been on the bill. I've done this. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. She was like, all you're going to do is it's simple. And then apparently action. So it was a moment of hilarity. Yeah. There you go. It's all right for us to take the mick. It's okay for us to take the mick out of that because apparently he had the mick taken out of him quite a lot and deserved it. So there we are.
Bless him. So a very big fish soon after, I'm sure. So the affair is on the horizon. Affair is on the horizon, and as I said, I missed a good old-fashioned affair. So it's been a while.
When was that? Was Shianu our last big affair?
I think Shianu was the last one.
Yeah.
Bring
it on.
And bring it on. Has to have a bit of fun, eh? So coming up then is the final story of the week, and a big reveal for Zack this week from a former friend.
Serious face.
An awful week for Zack this week, where he bumped into an old friend, Brett, and he he advised him that he should go and get himself tested, as Brett had found that he is HIV positive, and they had shared needles in the past, in a past that we were unprivy to begin with, about Zack, which he opened up a bit more to Sharon about. I mean, a very... very interesting, very dark story, a very intriguing story for a character like Zack as well.
Yes. I mean, there was a lot revealed about Zack this week. You know, sort of the fact that he used to do... I mean, a lot was revealed about not only Zack, but also about some of the viewers that watch this show. I mean, honestly. They record... I mean, I don't want to cause any uproar or anything, but also with some of them, I don't care. Because when they released it was one of those storylines that they like to announce and say, right, we're doing this now, which is fair enough. And then, but you sort of see that and you think, oh God, and not because of the storyline, but because you know some of the reaction that some people are going to say, and they didn't disappoint. You know, sort of things like, oh, is Zack gay now? That's stupid. That's how woke of you to make Zack gay all of a sudden. It's like, how? Let me just tell you all the things that you just said that were wrong. You idiot.
The naivety of it all, but just also the anger about it too. About
20
being
years
Zack as the character for doing it.
20, yeah, that too, yeah, because obviously straight characters aren't allowed to have an HIV storyline. Yeah, people actually said that. You know, it's sort of like, wow, 20 years since the Mark Fowler storyline has it been, and we're still getting these questions asked, and we're still having these statements said.
Which proves that this story is very important and does need to be discussed, despite what maybe a lot of people have about issue-based stories. You know, I have my problems with doing issue-based stories often and all the time, but I feel like they're being done and played very well now. And this one, I can see as a long-term, is going to be a very well-played story. But I just, like you, I was like just seeing people on social media and the things they were saying, they're kind of... in a way, I felt bad for them because there's obviously that naivety. I don't know a lot about HIV positive. No. I know that it's not the death sentence it used to be, and sadly, I think a lot of people kind of didn't understand that it's not just exclusive to the LGBT community. Yeah, it can be opened up to other people as well. It's a conversation that clearly needs to be had.
Yeah, well, clearly. I mean, and some people need to have it a good conversation about it. So yes, Zack had it all happening to him this week. This old compatriot of his arrived, Brett, Now, I thought there was a little bit of clumsy handling with some of the information because Tuesday's episode, there was a lot of information thrown at us. Not only did we discover that Zack used to take steroids, not only did we discover that he injected these, but we also discovered that he shared needles with Brett, which is such an indescribably idiotic thing to do. I can't even begin to tell you. Which, I don't need to tell you that. I wouldn't have thought. I thought Sharon kind of handled that quite, took that quite easily. It's just like,
it was a bit nonchalant, wasn't it?
A bit nonchalant.
Kind of went, really?
Right, okay. Well, don't do that again, you idiots. But,
Naughty.
I thought we were going back on Sharon's strike system when Zack found it, when told her about that. Right, let's strike one, 2 more, and you're out. So, yeah, and then kind of Brett sort of said, oh, well, I wasn't looking for you, but while I'm here, I have got HIV, and you should probably get yourself tested because we used to share needles, do you remember? It was just all sort of a lot of information to kind of take in without too much sort of conversation actually going on. But apart from that, I thought this was brilliant this week. I thought James Farrett is clearly, not as if we needed proof that James Farrett was going to knock it out of the park, because we know he's a good actor, but he's really, really showing what he can do this week. And there's a lot more to come for this storyline. There's a lot of implications from this as well, because we know that Zack is promiscuous, which I think is maybe why some people automatically jumped on the sexually transmitted bandwagon.
I was guilty for it too. I didn't think they were going to go down. It'd be needle sharing. I actually thought it'd be some kind of sexual act. Perhaps I think you suggested that they shared a woman they both slept with, or something like that. I figured that Brett had, because we know that Zack is a bit of a lad, and I figured that him and Brett would have been mates and that they might have slept with the same woman, like you say, and it all kind of happened that way. But for it to be steroids, which is a completely separate thing, that steroids are insane. That's quite a thing for someone to have taken. So it seemed like a big revelation about Zack, and that sort of thing is kind of, because it's kind of like, well, Zack, it was at a stage in his life. He said he was in a dark place. It's like, how dark do you need to have been to have shared needles with somebody? That's an insane thing to do. I'd quite like to have known exactly what was going on with Zack at the time, for him to sort of reflect on that at the moment. We know the history of his father was a bad one, and it must have been tough growing up the way he was kind of dragged up almost by his father, but
dragged up by his hair.
But we know this was almost the kind of more of a recent past rather than the distant past. I know he's a very young lad. I'm not accusing him of being as old as I am, but is maybe not even the Earth is as old as me.
God, no.
I
Big Bang
came from the
Alex.
sky. I appeared. It does feel a little bit odd, but at the same time, it kind of does feel in place as well. I'd be interested to learn, not through a flashback, but I'd be interested to know what he did in the past, and learn more about his friendship with Brett. I mean, it'd be nice if Brett isn't just a flash in the pan. He's come in, dropped this revelation, and leaves again. I'd like him to kind of just maybe learn more from him.
I mean, don't get me wrong, steroids does work as a kind of character point of Zack's history, because obviously I'm not saying obviously that all people who like to go to the gym are on steroids. Like, you're not on steroids, and you quite like going to the gym. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, I'm definitely not on steroids if that's the type that we're going down. Tell you. But there is so many implications that are coming through this, because obviously we know that Zack has been promiscuous. We've seen Zack be promiscuous since he arrived on the show, but since we've known him, has slept with Whitney. Now, obviously that is kind of play out, obviously, because Whitney's pregnant. One night stand because Whitney.
She
Whitneyed all over him, but not only that, he obviously had a relationship with Nancy. Now, I'm telling me that they always had protected sex. I doubt it. He slept with Janine once. He slept with Sam a fair few times. So my thinking with that is that it seems unlikely, if he was stupid enough to share needles with somebody, that he's not going to have used protection every single time that he slept with someone. So he's got a lot of awkward phone conversation to have. And now is it going to be that all of the women, maybe Whitney's a separate thing. We'll kind of take Whitney aside for a second, because that's obviously the story moving forward on its own. But all the women that he slept with since we've known him, is that going to be like none of them? I'm not saying that it's always sexually transmissible. Of course, it's not. No. But is that going to be addressed? I assume it will, because I think with this team, they know what they're doing and they will have discussed this. They will have. The Sam and Zack thing has happened only fairly recently, so it's not like that's going to have been forgotten about, because Zack and Sam still have quite a strong relationship. So I'm just sort of curious as to how all that is going to be addressed. I think it will be addressed. I'm not accusing them of just sort of kind of retconning stuff and forgetting about it, but I'm just intrigued as to how that's all going to play out. But there's a lot to come for Zack, and great character for it to happen to, because the way that he lives his life, kind of just having a laugh, sleeping around, blazing it up,
he's
having
lad,
a laugh. Yeah, he is a lad, absolute lad.
Lads.
That's lads.
It's interesting. His friendship is with Martin as well.
Well, exactly.
How Martin's likely to take it, quite well. He's probably going to be very,
break stuff up
brotherly to him. Yeah, of course, and Martin would know. Would be able to hopefully help him, as his brother also was HIV positive. So Mark must be going to be brought up at some point. So again,
Surely,
kind of bringing up the history of the show, which is also a nice little touch. But it's the Whitney thing, as you say. It's the Whitney thing that's going to be intriguing about all this, because it's not to say she's.
You can't have it easy for 1 minute.
She's done a Whitney.
Yeah. Oh.
It should be a phrase.
Oh, you're not a psycho. But you might have given me HIV. I see. Right. That I wondered where it was going to go wrong here.
Whitney just can't catch a break. Bless her. No. She cannot catch a break. Of course, unless it was immaculate conception, like you said. He could have worn protection, and it could have just been, we're due another one.
Unlikely, though.
Over 2,000 years.
So yeah, huge amounts come for this. It is only just the genesis of the storyline. It is only just starting. He still has to get tested. The thing is, we know that he has got it. It's not been announced officially on the show yet, but we know that he has got it.
Do you feel okay knowing that, or do you feel like they should? I know it's difficult. It's one of those things. Like, there's a fine line of what we should know and shouldn't know. Like, would it with a story like this? I guess it's good to know it, because then you kind of you get yourself prepared for the story ahead.
Do you know what?
And it's not. Yeah, it's not so much. Sorry, it's not so much him discovery. It's the story afterwards. It's the aftermath that's going to be the story that we're focusing on.
I was quite pleased that they announced it, because it exposed quite a lot of ignorance, which clearly meant that this is a storyline that needs to be discussed. Genuinely, I was trawling through some of the comments and messages online, and it's just like, do you people leave the house? Like, have you read a book? Like, Christ alive! Like, has anything that's happened to you over the past 20 years brought you any education on this matter whatsoever? And I don't know everything. Of course I don't. You don't know everything. Nobody knows everything about the storyline unless you're actually going in and researching it. But for the love of God, like, people actually saying, "Well, he's not gay. So how is this happening?" What?
I know.
How?
I know.
What?
But what annoys me is that it's still seen as like the gay disease, in inverted commas, and it's like, how is that still seen today? And why is it that, because it's a straight person who's portraying the straight character that's portraying the story? Why is that a misdirection in one way or another? Why is that a misdirection?
Like, some people genuinely furious that the other gay characters on the show weren't given this storyline. It's kind of like, do you realise how insulting you're being by saying
incredibly insulting?
Like, dear God. Anyway,
another day, another podcast.
Oh, Lord.
But no, as you say, this is an exciting start to the story.
Very exciting.
I see the testing part is obviously going to be the part that they're focusing on right now, but this is a long-term story. This is where they
the rest of Zack's life
on the square. Exactly. Yeah. This is where we're gonna they're being tested now. Like, we've accused the soap of kind of just forgetting things. Isaac's schizophrenia, it happened, then it kind of just disappeared. And then it went away again. The FGM story, it came, it went, and then they got rid of the characters. It's just forgotten. And this is a test. I feel like this is their test here.
Well,
they can show that they can do a long-term story with the character.
Well, clearly the what they've said about this storyline and what the clear implications of the storyline are is it's actually supposed to be, despite it all, quite a positive story, in the sense that they're going to show how you can live a perfectly normal and full life. A lot has changed since Mark Fowler the story was being told. So they're going to show how Zack can actually live a fully normal life. They're going to show how we can be in a completely normal relationship, and and everything. So there's really positive stuff to be kind of gleaned from doing a story like this, especially with a character like Zack, who probably, I don't think Zack would be the sort of person to look at something like this and say, "Isn't that a gay disease?" I don't think he would say, like, he's not that stupid, but I think that there is information that someone like Zack could get from this, because he's not somebody that's going to be completely au fait with everything to do with this. So he's got some learning to do. We've got some learning to do. Yep. And I think it's going to be brilliant. I think as a whole, this story is going to be really, really good. James Farrell, like I said, is going to knock it out of the park. Obviously, Sharon McCarthy will do her stuff and do it with him. So the pair of them will be great together because Whitney is guaranteed trauma, whatever happens to her. So she will do her usual excellent stuff. No, exactly.
She'll even leave unhappy. She'll be like one of the characters that will leave the show.
I wonder if it's illegal for Whitney to have a happy 5 minutes. You know, she was giggling a lot this week. I'm telling you now, that's her giggling done for the rest of the year. She's had it all in this week. That's
got it out of the way early.
Yeah, that's how Whitney's life works. Bless her. So yeah, all applause for doing this. All applause to what we've seen online. I think Zack himself actually was very well written this week. I enjoyed that scene, or you say enjoy, you know what I mean, when he was kind of losing his temper and then he cut his hand and then he was absolutely terrified by the blood.
Kept
bandaging it up, trying to clean it frantically. Yeah, just all good stuff.
Really
just all good stuff. And the utter denial that he's kind of like just trying to push it all away now. There was a great moment between him and Brett when he was like, "What are you on about? Of course I haven't got HIV. Look at me. I'm fit. I'm healthy. Do I look sick to you?" To which Brett's instant reply was, "Well, do I look sick to you?" I almost stood up and applauded that line. I thought it was fantastically well handled. So yes, lots come for this. We shall see where it goes, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops because I think that we have a team that is going to do this storyline absolute justice and knock it out of the park.
All right, Brett.
Overall, great week, I thought, actually. Really, really strong. Another really strong week, I should say. You know, the show feels in such a good place at the moment, doesn't it? Like, you're just kind of watching episodes satisfied, for me.
Satisfaction.
Like, I've just had a good old cheese sandwich that's like been made properly, Alex.
Indeed. But how can other people get in touch and let us know if they're just as satisfied or not?
Yes. Indeed. We have no time for I Want to Gossip this week, but we will be reading your comments out next week. And you can send us those comments by doing the following. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. You can find us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of your favourite podcast sites. You can email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com.
You can. All those methods you can
do it. Do it
right now. If you're sitting on your computer right now watching us, do it. Or even if you're not, send a pigeon.
Rubbish. Send us absolute rubbish. Send lots of gifts of cats to Alex. He loves all that sort of thing.
Love it. I do actually.
He loves it. He loves it. alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com. If he gets 3 cat gifts this week, I'll know you're listening to us, and I will be warm.
And I'll give a shout out to every gift. Listen, we're going to get going because we've had nothing but troubles from beginning to end of recording this podcast this week.
You should see the dramas we have had.
You've never seen
lengths that we have tried to go to get this recorded this week. You would not believe.
Rob's literally had to pad me down with a wet flannel just to calm me down.
Alex genuinely needs to now go and lie down in a darkened room with a cold compress and take a Valium. He's been very, very stressed.
Pass me that Valium.
Honestly. So until then, Alex, well done for recovering for this week. You've done very, very well. Keeping all the little grey hairs in your beard.
I can't even have a drink. I can't even have a drink because it's dry January, for goodness sake.
Are you doing that as well? You have no fun. You're vegan and you're doing dry January. What fun do you have, Alex? What fun is there for you? Such an offensive thing to say to a vegan.
I'll have a
coffee. Have you drank all my coffees that I got you for Christmas?
I have. I've drunk all of them. They're lovely. Thank you very much.
They're good.
They were lovely. Thank you. Genuinely. Thank you very much.
I'm delighted. I don't mean the vegan stuff I say, by the way. It's just stuff I throw at Alex. It's banter, mate. Banter. Anyway, until next week. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from myself. Everyone take care of yourselves.
See you later. Stay safe.
Bye.